Welcome. My name is Fred Sandoval. I'm the Executive Director for the National Latino Behavioral Health Association. Thank you for joining us today for our Plática called Tenemos Voz, We Have a Voice, on Latino Peer Recovery. With me today is our esteemed Associate Director and co-host Maxine Henry, who will introduce herself shortly. NALBA is a nonprofit agency dedicated to the well-being of Latino individuals, families, and communities in New Mexico and across the United States. Our mission is to address the disparities and barriers affecting the behavioral health of Latinos. Today, we are excited to kick off the first of a Plática series called Tenemos Voz on Latino peer recovery and the journey of hope and transformation. We would like to thank the New Mexico Human Services Department and the Office of Peer Recovery and Engagement for making this series possible. Each month through June 2021, NALBA will host speakers directly involved in recovery to share their story, insights, and the resources available to help make recovery possible. So let's begin with our co-host, Miss Maxine Henry, who will also introduce today's guest. Maxine.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, audience, for joining us today. And a special thank you to Melisha and Nathan. As Fred mentioned, I'm Maxine Henry. I am the Associate Director for the National Latino Behavioral Health Association, otherwise known as NALBA, based here in Denver, Colorado. Originally from South Valley in Albuquerque, though. So excited about my roots in Nuevo Mexico. So let me introduce our esteemed presenters guest today. First, we have Melisha Montagno. She is a certified peer support worker trainer and is a woman in long-term recovery. She currently serves the state of New Mexico as the program manager for the Office of Peer Recovery and Engagement, which is housed in the Behavioral Health Services Division and a part of the Human Services Department. Her work focuses on leveraging the lived experience of those with a mental health or substance use disorder as a way to improve the continuum of care. Ms. Montagno has built her career on lifting people up and helping them make their way into the behavioral health field with integrity and a strong emphasis on ethics. Her current efforts focus on connecting peer support workers to those experiencing dislocation due to COVID-19 and overall workforce development for those in recovery. Welcome, Melisha. And next we have Nathan Lawson, who is a lifelong resident of New Mexico, was born and raised in southern New Mexico. Nathan is a person in long-term recovery, meaning that for the last 7 years, he has learned new ways to cope with everyday struggles. Nathan is in recovery from lifestyle choice, substance use, and mental health issues. He continues to work every day in our communities to enhance and expand peer support as a behavioral health service, to help those that may still be struggling. Nathan was raised in a Hispanic family. Culturally, he considers himself Hispanic. Nathan continues to advocate for all populations, that you too can recover once the pain of changing becomes easier to endure than the pain of remaining the same. Thank you, Nathan, for joining us.
Thanks, Maxine, for those great introductions. I'm really excited to be on this Plática today. You're going to be so inspired. It's going to say a lot about the stories that we're about to hear. But more importantly, it's just exciting to be able to be doing this live on Facebook because our pláticas are pretty unique. So here's how the pláticas work. We'll begin this exchange. The word plática means conversation in English. So we'll start this conversation with some questions that we have. And those focus questions are about Latinos and peer recovery in general. So we have several questions to get us started. And for the listening audience, you'll have a chance to ask questions of our presenters and even make some comments. So as those pop up on the screen, we'll be sure to ask those questions and also share some of your comments so we can actually have some interaction with those of you who are listening in today on Facebook Live. So let's get started. I'm going to start off with the first question, and I'd like to ask this question both of Melisha and Nathan, so that each of you have a chance to answer this first question, and then we'll turn it over to Maxine. She and I'll alternate with these questions. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to learn more about each of you. Just if you could briefly just say a little bit more about yourself, And I think that'll help our listening audience know who's been invited to this party, and more importantly, to give you a chance to share a little bit about yourself. So we'll start with Melisha. So we'll turn to you, and then Nathan will then ask you the same question. Go ahead, Melisha.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for this honor. It's an honor to be here today at noon, and for this conversation, pláticas, like you say, and asking just to say a little bit about myself. You know, as a woman, and thank you for that awesome introduction, Maxine. Yes, I am a woman in long-term recovery. And what that means for me too is that I'm going in on my 11th year of sobriety. And thank you. And the fact that I get to sit here, an employed woman of 11 years, you know, doing the next right thing in my life, and is an amazing thing for me. So just a little background on how I got here to the state of New Mexico. I am from northern New Mexico, with a strong family behind me. And I think that recovery to me, and how I got here, was the fact that my family in particular, mi familia, never gave up on me. And they always knew that it was in me. And with the blessings of my abuelita and my family members out there, I am where I'm at today because of that, and the prayers. You know, since it's a pláticas today, and we get to talk a conversation, I cannot leave my faith out of this. So thank you for the platform of allowing us to do that. And I know that it's by God's grace, and I get to say this all the time, is that I am employable. I am the mother that my God intended me to be today. And the daughter. I love it when my parents say, and I hope they're watching, if you're out there and you press the right button, my dad, you know, they have their daughter back, and they're very proud of her. And also I'm part of a family knit, where my two brothers, I have two siblings that are so proud to say they have a sister today. You know, there was a time in my life when I was not destined to make it in this world. I got into recovery a little late in life, which was 48 years old. And because of that, you know, I at the time I felt that it was, you know, that I had lost out on so much. But I was sharing with Maxine the other day that I have lived more in the past 11 years than I have, I think, my whole adult life. And yes, so, you know, I really appreciate that. And I know that we'll get a chance to talk more about that later. But, you know, by God's grace and prayers and family and El Norte and community and hope and program and sponsorship, I'm here. You know, it went from here to here. You know, the big hole that I had in my soul is filled with so much more today. And I'm blessed to talk about that today. So muchas gracias. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, Melissa, well, bienvenidos. And yeah, absolutely. We are going to have a chance to ask a little bit more about your experiences and what's led to your recovery, because that's so important. So, Nathan, just if you could say a little bit about yourself, that would be great. And go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sandoval and Maxine, for having us. Good afternoon. My name is Nathan Lawson. And from what you heard from my bio is that I'm from New Mexico. I've lived here my whole life, and I live New Mexico, I speak New Mexico, and I eat New Mexico, right? Green chili, woohoo. So yeah, you know, a little bit about myself is I'm a person in long-term recovery, you know, and you know, I picked up my first drug at the age of 12, and I didn't get clean until the age of 26. So I was in active addiction for 14 years, you know, and today I have 7 years in recovery. And, this morning I woke up with a choice. I woke up with a choice to use drugs or not to use drugs, right? And through the recovery support that I have from my natural supports and my recovery communities, my family and my friends, today I don't have to use drugs. Today I don't have to drink alcohol. Today I have a healthy lifestyle. I pay attention to what I eat. I make sure I drink water. Exercise, right? All the good things that we learn when we come into recovery. But I'll tell you, man, that last day when I was 26 years old, it had progressed to the point where I was using quite hard drugs intravenously. I picked up hepatitis C during my drug use. Today I'm cleared of that. I came into recovery and health all of a sudden was a priority. It was like, oh man, I better get healthy now. Now I want to live, right? Now I have something to live for. And so I got that cleared up. And so that's just a little small introduction about who I am. And, I am a certified peer support worker. I've been a certified peer support worker for 3 years. I've been working in the field for 5. I started out my professional career at Shadow Mountain Recovery, which is a treatment center in northern New Mexico located in Taos. And I worked there for many years, and I had the opportunity to share my story with so many people, that came to that treatment center. And, peer support saved my life. The first time I met somebody that was in recovery, they had been off of drugs and alcohol for many years. And to me, that was something brand new, right? Because I never met anybody that didn't use drugs or alcohol, right? And that's what saved my life, right? Was another peer, somebody that had years in recovery, and came up to me and talked just like I did, dressed just like I did, said the same things I said, and I related, man. So yeah, I'm the training coordinator with the Office of Peer Recovery and Engagement. I work closely with Melisha. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Well, what a tandem that you get to work together, right? Two peas in the same pod, right? But more importantly is the messaging. And so we're going to explore a little bit about that. So I'm going to ask our co-host, Maxine, to take us to the next step. So Maxine.
Absolutely. So both of you, in your self-introductions talked about, recovery from a very personal perspective, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because each of you walked your own walk, and are continuing to do that. As Nathan said, I woke up even this morning, 7 years later, with a choice. But for the listening audience, how would you describe recovery to the masses? What would that look like? Nathan, if you'd like to go first.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great question. And as a matter of fact, recovery to me has a lot of different meanings. So for me personally, what recovery means is that no matter what, I do not pick up, right? No matter what I'm going through, no matter what I'm experiencing, no matter what, I do not pick up that bag, right? And that's what keeps me clean, so recovery can mean something, and it's very personal for everyone. I've met individuals, like in my bio, I mentioned that I'm in recovery from a lifestyle choice, and for me, that was the gang life. And, I've met individuals that are in recovery from, ranging from domestic violence to sex trafficking. So recovery just, if you're doing anything in your life to make your life better, you are in recovery, right? Because we're all recovering from something, addiction, it just reaches so many families. I don't know one person that doesn't have a family member or a friend that is touched by the disease of addiction. So that's my take on recovery.
Thank you. And just, for the record, for the rest of the hour, you're not allowed to talk about New Mexico green chili because I haven't been able to travel back to New Mexico since this pandemic and we're running low. So no more talk about, Chile, please. Just joking. Melisha, how would you describe recovery for other people?
Okay, well, first and foremost, part of my recovery is eating green chili, Maxine. At least once a day, ask Nathan, he'll tell me, we'll be talking and he'll say, what are you eating, Lish? Chili. That's my life. I have to have chili with at least one or two meals a day. And I love that. But I love the fact that he touched on choices. Every morning, you know, I hit my knees and I say, please, thy will, not mine, be done today. Your words, not mine, be said. You know, sometimes you got to take that back, but recovery to me was threefold: spiritual, mental, and physical. And he touched on all of them. You know, when I started getting better physically, then I had to deal with this. My mind was the one that was telling me to fill the hole that I had in my soul with so many bad things. And today, what that looks like for me, recovery, is first and foremost, you know, a connection with something way bigger than Melisha, because for years I thought I was the end all be all. I have a very selfish, self-centered disease, and it's alcoholism, and anything that comes with that. Because believe me, the dry goods were at my reach, and I say that because, you know, whatever you had, I wanted, and I'd go to any lengths to get it. And you know, and I grew up a very angry and spoiled young lady, but with the love of family, and families are there. So first for me, recovery means something, you know, my God, my Virgen de Guadalupe, who helped save my life, who I listened to finally after so many years of hurting. Because the biggest thing I think for me that I regretted and was that I could not be the mother that God intended me to be. Alcohol and drugs stripped this woman of everything that is a God-given gift to the female. I'm sorry. I thought I was constitutionally incapable of getting clean and sober. And little did I know that the voice from another woman, something bigger than myself, spoke to me one day while I was working the steps with another lady, and my sponsor at the time. And we were working the steps at a place here in Santa Fe, where she was. And for years, she had been standing there. She's the Virgen de Guadalupe, and it's on Guadalupe Street, but I didn't know they had brought this big, beautiful figure there. And I guess I'd been passing through there for years. It was because I was never present. And so when I got to see this beautiful, beautiful statue there, and I did some work, and I got to sit with her, there was hours of the day that I lost, that when I came home, I said, I had to call. I had to call my mom. I had to call the female figures in my life, and no one answered, but my madrina in Denver answered. And they were all busy, right? And I get it, but I said, Tia, you gotta understand, you gotta, you know, listen to what happened to me today. An experience happened. I'm done. I'm so done, because I heard from La Virgencita that everything was going to be okay, and that she was the mother of all mothers, and that all the sorrows and all the hurt that I had caused and that had been caused to me, and all the guilt and shame, was going to go away, because she was going to take over my life. And I knew then that I was done with drugs and alcohol and everything that came with that. And that my chance to be a mom and a daughter and a sister and a tia and a granddaughter and everything beautiful about being a strong woman in recovery and motherhood was going to come to fruition for me. And if any moms are out there struggling, thinking that their life is over because they couldn't do that at the time, or be that figure, it's not true, because we can, and recovery is possible, and you can mend relationships, and that happened for me. And she was a big, she still is a big, powerful empress. I love the way Mr. Sandoval explained her to me in my life. And it was instilled by so many women. And because of that, I get to vote and I get to do so many other things on so many levels. And I have role models that are females. And my two grandmothers, one of my grandmothers did not see me, I was very young when she passed away. But my abuelita on my mother's side, she's with me every day. She was with me at the beginning of this meeting, and she got to see a few of her family members clean and sober. And she gave us her blessing, and just life beyond my wildest dreams is how I get to live my life today. And to show up for peers in New Mexico. I would have never thought in a million years that I could be an example to anyone. So my recovery is so big. And it's happening right now and right here in this hour.
That's great. Melisha, just how moving. And you almost started to already answer the next question, right? And I thought, oh my God, she's amazing. She already knows what we're going to ask, But I want you to know who's listening. There's just a large number of people who are calling in and they're commenting, and I just have to share. We have to do a little shout out for some folks that are on here today. We want to say hi to Valerie, our comadre Valerie, who's says she's so happy to be here and thanks for this experience. We have Jeanette who commented and she's saying, yay, she's so happy for Nathan and Melisha for sharing their stories. We have a couple of folks. We have Kika and Jorge from California, and they're just so happy to be here listening to your story. We have Fabricia who says, she's so powerful. Thank you for your sharing. Jeanette says, and you are a role model who is female. So Melisha, kudos to you. And we have Wendy who says, felicidades, saludos desde el norte de California. So we have folks who are calling in from different places, and we'll have a chance to ask you some questions here as they come in. But I'd like to just very quickly, if I can, there was experiences like you've just described, Melisha, that really kind of started to support your decision about being sober and really making a change. And you described family and spirituality. Were there any other factors, Melissa, that really started to play a role in your life that really came to bear on why you made a choice, a decision to take a different direction? Because you've already by that time had, I think you said, more than 2 decades of, substance use and other traumatic experiences. But you started to experience a change. And what were those things that were having a positive influence on your making this decision to stop drinking?
Well, I believe, Fred, thank you for asking that, is that I saw my friends and people in my circle all leaving this earth, and it had a big impact on me, and then I saw my family excelling, and the enabling part, I saw what I was doing to my family, and I wanted to enjoy my parents and be alive to make living amends to them. When I say that my parents got me back, they literally got me back. I was gone, and then I got to work on the anger and the temper and the ucky part of my personality. I get to be the friend also to friends, and they like having me as a friend. Nathan talked about it earlier. He said, there was a point in my life and nobody wanted me around, and dealing with addiction and what comes with that is very, very heart-wrenching and traumatic on family members. And where I come from in northern New Mexico, my parents, they didn't know they were enabling me, but they were literally helping in ending my life, but they didn't know that porque I was the hita for so many years. Pero I was a 48-year-old hita until my mom, she's the strong one, no? There was a gentleman that told my mom in the program, you need to lock those doors and change those locks, Mrs. Montagno. And she said, but I can't, it's her own house. And he said, I don't care. Lock them and change them. Let her go somewhere else. You do not have to be picking up after this girl. You know, responsibility and accountability feels so good. I mean, my self-esteem, you know, it hit. I mean, who doesn't want to be able to fend and be and make their own living and have their own things? I don't know how I took, but I kept taking and taking. And now I get to give back in so many ways, like so many ways, community-wise. Anytime that there's somebody reaches out to us at OPRE or me personally saying I'm struggling or my family member struggling, can you help? I may not be able to fix the place, fix where they're at, but we do have resources. And it's so weird because me and Nathan, our paths crossed at the same treatment center because I was a community liaison, not before I took the job at the state 3 years ago with Shadow Mountain, and Nathan was in there doing the work. It was also a treatment center that said to me, do you know what peer support is? And I said, no, I don't. She said, I need you to look into that because you're probably going to be very valuable down the road. And I got certified in 2016 and took my class with 2 amazing people. Joel Jones, if you're out there listening, another female role model in my life. You know, she gave the class and it's 2021. And I thought point A to point B, it just takes too long, but it happens. It happens.
Well, just thank you for sharing that. And you're right. You know, when we think about our kids, right, we refer to them as our children, mis hitos, right? And it tells you how strong that bond is and how much care, support our parents have for us and how much love and admiration we have for our parents. So, in all of that kind of protective environment, that strong bond, part of what happens is when alcohol seeps its way into our lives, it tends to erode and, you know, it has a negative effect on all of those positive things that make us who we are. But you were so right in really experiencing something about how even our own family members will change, the things that they'll do that may actually help recreate or make us rethink about our relationships. And Nathan, you know, you were saying a little bit about this the other day and talk about how powerful a description, just like Militia, about what happened when the family members made a change. And Nathan, say a little bit about that, and then we're going to go to Maxine to ask about OPRE a little bit because we want to tell folks a little bit about OPRE. But Nathan, share with us a little bit more about the things that really came into play to change a lot of what you were experiencing.
Definitely. Thank you, Mr. Sandoval. So yeah, you know, I want to talk about the last day that I used, right? And this was January 23rd of 2014. This was the loneliest day of my life, yet this was the day that I was reborn. And to kind of paint that picture for you guys, you know, I was on the run from the law. You know, when they talk about in the Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous rooms running and gunning, I was literally running and gunning. You know, I was at a point in my life where you know, I was on a suicide mission with the cops. You know, to be transparent. You know, I had no healthy relationships. My family, my friends didn't want anything to do with me. Even my drug using buddies were to the point where they didn't want me around, right? And so, you know, it was lonely, man. And I'll tell you what, man, I can really relate, Militia. You know, I grew up, so half of my family's Hispanic, the other half is white. And, you know, I grew up with my mom and my grandma, right? Nathan's our hito, right? Mijito. I can really relate with that. And I heard that all my life growing up. But the thing about it was, my mom loved me so much that I could never do no wrong, right? No matter what, even when my hands were red, I had red paint all over my face, right? The proof was in the pudding that Nathan did it. Nathan didn't do it. Nathan did nothing wrong, right? And I got so used to that, right? And it was just like, every time I caught a charge, anytime I got into trouble, there was my mom to help me out, and for that, to this day, I'm very grateful. My mom was doing what she knew to do as a mom, which was to love me unconditionally, right? And there is nothing wrong with that. Back to the loneliest day of my life, I was at the point where I needed to shower. I hadn't showered in a few days. And I couldn't go to motels because the police were watching the motels. Like I said, I couldn't go to my drug using buddies because they didn't want me around because the cops were following me. Basically, I went to my mom's house and I knocked on her door. And I let her know, Mom, I just need to shower. I'll shower and I'll take off. I won't stay. I just need to shower and go. And this was the day that she changed, right, for the better, and it saved my life. She came back to the door. Actually, she closed the door. I heard the door lock, which was something new. I never experienced that. So I was kind of like, wow, what's going on here? And she came to the door, with a towel, a rag, and some Irish Spring. And it wasn't even brand new Irish Spring. It was used Irish Spring, right? And she said, son, there is a spigot right there. You can shower, and then when you're done, you have to leave, right? And all my life, the only way I've ever learned how to deal with things is through resentment, right? So as an alcoholic and a drug addict, my first instinct was to build a resentment against the woman that birthed me, right? Against this woman that just protected me my whole life and said, he's not doing nothing wrong. I love him. He's my hito, and showed me unconditional love, right? And oh, I'm the firstborn son. How could she do this to me? I didn't even shower. I built that resentment, and I didn't need a shower all of a sudden, right? That poison was more important to me. That poison, that resentment, and swallowing that pill of resentment was more important to me than showering that day. But the little thing, right, that I didn't know, that I found out years later, was that behind that door was a woman that fell to her knees and cried. When she locked that door and told me, you have to shower outside and you have to leave, that broke her heart. She fell to her knees and she cried. And I didn't know that until years later, and many years later, I had lunch with my mom, and I thanked her for that, because that was what saved my life. That was the day that my mom built up enough courage to save my life. And for that, I'm forever grateful. Mom, if you're watching, thank you. So I just really wanted to share that story, because this is a real common story in New Mexico. With Hispanic and Latino families, it's very, very common. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Thank you.
Wow, just powerful. I can picture that moment in your life, and the fact you remember the date and the year, the situation, just tells us how profound that interaction was between your mom and her hito, right? And gosh, moms just, they love their kids to death, right? But we misinterpret death in that instance because they don't really want us to leave. We know that the most challenging, stressful experience for parents is when their kids leave home. But in this case, the question is, they really don't want you to leave permanently, right? I have to share something really quickly here. Um, Kate wants you to know something. She says, you can see and hear the intense, passionate story Nathan and Melisha have gone through to recover. We thank you so much for sharing your stories to help inspire others that you can change and make better choices. You both are extraordinary with all you have been through, remarkable in sharing this to motivate those in the same setting. And this is from Iowa. So just remember that as you say these things today on Facebook Live, we're also recording this event. So we're going to get to replay this many, many more times so many more people can hear this message. And my esteemed colleague, my co-host, Maxine Henry is just chomping at the bit to ask you this next question. So I want to turn it over to Maxine because I just so greatly admire her and her story. She's an inspiration to me. So Maxine.
Yeah, thank you for sharing these beautiful stories. If I can make it through without the tears, then we've had a really good plática. But in both of your stories, I loved hearing that it wasn't only redemption for the two of you, but it was redemption for the people around you who love you. And so I think recovery really, it reverberates in such a positive way throughout the entire unit. And so thank you for being brave enough and selfless enough to share these stories. So Fred mentioned earlier that, we wanted to hear a little bit more about the Office of Peer Recovery and Engagement. And in New Mexico, we say OPRE, OPRE, whatever you call it, it's fine. But I think I tend to say OPRE. So for the sake of today's event, we'll call it OPRE. But can you share with our listening audience what the mission of OPRE is? Melisha, would you like to take that first?
Yeah, I'll touch base on the mission of OPRE for a minute, but Nathan's the expert as the training coordinator, and him and I are a team. And I knew from the beginning that especially if you give peers a task, or if you hire a peer. And really quick, can I tell you how it started out for me at OPRE? I on my time off, when I do get time off, I know that all of New Mexico knows because I make it live. I ride a motorcycle, okay? I've ridden bikes since I was like 14, 15 years old, but I was never responsible enough to experience the ride, if that's anything, until 10 years ago. I thought, once I get clean and sober, because I've owned bikes before, talk about my parents not sleeping nights and days, and family members and friends, jails and institutions was my story. And I never got picked up on a Harley, but I don't know how that didn't happen. But anyway, today, starting 10 years ago, I continue to ride, and I love to ride. But how I got the message that I was going to be working for OPRE was I was at a place in Glacier National Park called Heaven's Peak. I'm not lying. These are the things we get to share about. I'm so excited because I applied. And of course, being a woman in recovery, when you apply for different jobs in your life, you're intimidated. I am 48 years old, going to another job. I will never retire from a job with years of service to that position. I will retire because of my age, and I'm proud to say that today. So before that, I worked at the detention center as a case manager. Talk about full circle, in Tierra Maria, where I got to live with my parents, make living amends to my parents, and make living amends to a community that was afraid of me back in the day. At a jail that I worked at, was fired at, put in jail there, and then went back 18 years later, to work for an amazing warden who told me, here's your program, run with it, help our people. And then the opportunity came to do this kind of work at a state level. And so when I got a phone call in Glacier National Park 18 months ago, it was Mika Tari saying, there's a message, and there was no service up there at Heaven's Peak, the highest peak over there at Glacier, the ride to the sun on the Harleys. I said, hey, Larry, Trina, I have a message. It's the state. And I got chills, and it's Mika saying, hey, get off that mountain. If you want this job, you got a second interview. That's how amazing she was. And so I came back home and I did my second interview. And I get to sit here and I get to talk about the mission of OPRE. And that's an amazing question, because it's like the sky's limit is the limit for OPRE right now. You know, I think our mission, it's ever changing, because we want workforce to be included in that for all peers that are credentialed and signing up for this amazing opportunity to be and serve their communities, for all parts of New Mexico, all walks of life, all nationalities. We advocate. We want people to apply. The process opens up again now in March. We don't have a wait list. When we came on 18 months ago, we had a 2-year wait list. I think the mission is to be good examples. I want OPRE to be an amazing example to peers out there that recovery is possible. And we went from having to do trainings, and if anything happened during this crazy COVID, was that we went virtual with our trainings, and our trainers played a huge role in making that transition from in-person to helping Nathan put the curriculum together and get it on a place so that we can teach the learners. There's just so much, but the main thing I think that I want to say that OPRE is involved in now is making more available to our public and to our providers the chance for your workers or your peer support workers in your agencies get trained, good training, good, amazing curriculum. We have a curriculum, and Nathan can talk about it, a curriculum module that just went into our training manual, and be good examples for the state of New Mexico and people of ethically, especially ethically, and getting the foundation so that our peers can pass their tests and go out there and do good things and get good salaries and get, help raise their families and stay at a job, stay at a position. Just a lot, Maxine. I'm very excited when you ask questions about OPRE.
We can hear you. That is beautiful, and we have the audience, Leticia saying inspirational and motivating. So at every corner, I think the audience can really just feel how palatable your passion for this work is, and how, because it's so personal, you're willing to share with others. Same for you, Nathan. So same question, Nathan, from your perspective, what would you say the mission of OPRE is?
Definitely. Thank you, Maxine. So yeah, I just want to real quick, I want to tie up, the story that I shared, man, because, when I have the opportunity to share that story with people, it gets a little emotional, and I always forget to tie it up, right? I'm glad to say that today I have a very healthy relationship with my mother. I talk with her every single day. I have healthy relationships with both my brother, my sister, my father, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. And that's all been due to the fact that, like Melisha had said, that I had the opportunity to make living amends every day. Today I get to wake up and make a choice that, today I'm going to make living amends to my community and to my family by not picking up, right? So that's just amazing. I wanted to share that. So yeah, the mission statement of OPRE. So I'd like to share how I got into the office of OPRE, right? And it's a really funny story. So yes, me and Melisha had worked together in the past. I was scrolling through Facebook one day, and I saw this post that said, "Hey, we need a training coordinator for OPRE." And I was like, "Wow, man, that'd be an awesome opportunity. I want to really expand, professionally. Begin to network with much more people, because I don't know, Taos, New Mexico, man. I mean, when you're up there, you're up there. Nobody sees you. You know what I mean? Like, nobody in the state of New Mexico even knew there was a Nathan Lawson until I came and worked with OPRE. So that's really awesome, right? I got off the mountain and came back down the mountain, huh? But yeah, so I went and I interviewed with Melisha and Mika, and funny story is that I showed up in jeans and a dress shirt, right? And this is a state interview. And the reason that is, right, is that I didn't even connect it in my mind, because all those years working up at Shadow Mountain Recovery, we wore boots, we wore jeans, and we wore a polo shirt, right? That's just how we dressed, and I had dressed that way for so long that, oh, this is professional, dress here. I'm good. And so I went and took the interview, and, I got hired. And, maybe a month later, I told Mika, I said, hey, Mika, I just want to, I really want to thank you for, choosing me and, hiring me for this position. I'm really grateful. And she laughed. She said, yeah, next time don't show up in jeans, dude. And I said, yeah, I won't do that again. So yeah, peer support is very close to my heart. Like I shared in my introduction, peer support saved my life, man. You know what I mean? When I first came into recovery, I didn't trust therapists. I didn't trust counselors. I didn't trust the system. I didn't trust the state of New Mexico. I didn't trust myself, right? Um, so when I met somebody that was a peer, right, that had, I think this individual probably had about 5 years clean. And I remember the first thing he said to me was, "What's up, fool?" Just like one of my friends from the calles or whatever it may be. He was just like, "What's up, fool?" And I was like, "Wait, you're a guy at 5 years in recovery? Hold on. Wait, whoa. What's going on here, And I got to know the individual, man. And I the first thing I noticed about them was that the person was standing up and they were speaking. And the first thing I noticed was they had a smile. They had a smile on their face that I had never had, right? And I got to know this individual. And a lot of the questions that I asked him were, how do you smile the way you do, right? And he walked me through, man. He took me under his wing. He gave me peer support, right? This person wasn't a certified peer support worker, but he was a peer support worker, let me tell you. So really, that's just the mission of OPRE, right? Is to spread the word. I know for me, my CPSW certification really helps my recovery. It complements my recovery in the way that I'm able to not only incorporate recovery in my free time and with the people that I hang out with, but I'm also allowed to be engulfed in or engaged in recovery during my workday, right? And I have a piece of paper, man, and it is much more than a piece of paper. It says Nathan Lawson on it, and it says New Mexico Certified Peer Support Worker. And for this drug addict and ex-convict, ex-gangbanger, all those titles I had before I came into recovery, that is truly a miracle, man. Because just to kind of piggyback off what Fred had said earlier, that people didn't want me around, before I came into recovery. People didn't want to hear from me. People didn't, and I wasn't a victim. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to get that straight is, I'm no victim. But today people want to hear from me, and people want to hear about peer support, man. So if you or anybody out there, has 2 years in recovery, or they're coming up on, close to 2 years in recovery, and they like to help people, help people get out of the same hole that they were once in, reach out to Melisha and myself. Let's get them into training. And if you're from another state, peer support is nationwide. Reach out to us, and we'll do our best to connect you with your state's peer support program. Because this is, I really like to look at peer support as the bridge between the clinical team and the client, right? Because like I said, I didn't trust counselors, I didn't trust therapists. Today I do, right? Today I do. And that was because of peer support connected me, right? Gave me that bridge, right? Shared their experience with me, like, hey, man, I've taken some therapy and this is how it helped me, or maybe, hey, I've taken some therapy and this is how it didn't help me, whatever it may be, So peer support is really close to my heart. I love OPRE. I love every New Mexico CPSW out there. Our training is rocking. Our trainers are spectacular. I mean, every time I talk to them, I just praise them. So they're probably like, every time I show up, they're like, oh God, here goes Nathan. He's going to praise us for 10 minutes, right? But I mean, we could not have done this training without them, man. And, Kathy Valdez, she's also a CPSW. She's amazing. She worked with the credentialing board to further assist with integrating our digital platform and all that good stuff. So yeah, man, peer support's the way to go, and the new medicine, and we're not going nowhere.
Super. Gosh, my God. Maxine, we should probably keep doing this interview for another hour, don't you think?
At
We shouldn't
least.
stop out.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you've got me glued to the screen here, I'm hanging on every word that you're saying because it really means something to hear what you're saying because you're speaking your story, you're talking about resources, what that experience was like. And I have to give a shout out to some of the folks that are listening right now, just because in some parts, before Maxine and I wrap up with our two final questions, right? Because we could very easily have this conversation for more than the 60 minutes. But, we have just a whole bunch of folks that have joined us today. Our friend Susie from down in El Paso, Texas, Valerie from here in Santa Fe. We have, I mentioned Kate earlier. We also have Matt Martin, and he says, I appreciate you all and everything you do. Of course, our colleague, Valerie, Wendy. We also have some other folks that came on. I mentioned Jorge, and he says, very inspirational. Christina Montoya shared a quote with us, and I'll share it real quickly if I can. Uh, and it's a quote. And she says, there is a powerful driving force inside every human being that once unleashed can make any vision, dream, or desire a reality. And all of these are some of the comments that people are remarking on the live Facebook here. And we want to encourage people to do that for the remainder of the time. And because there are a couple of questions. Vera Hidalgo says, thank you both for giving parents hope. God bless you both in your work and recovery. Reminds me of New Mexico proverb, La esperanza es la última para morir. Hope is the last to die. And for the parents who are listening in today, it's a powerful reminder that we hope our kids do recover because you mean everything to us, right? So, very great comment. Natasha is applauding you. Dr. Romero sends his greetings. Bonifacio, the list is just going on and on. So, in these last few minutes that we have, Maxine, why don't you pick one last question? I'll pick one, and I think that will probably wrap us up for today because I don't know about you, Maxine, but I think we should maybe think about inviting Melisha and Nathan back somehow. So we're going to have to talk about this.
Absolutely. Well, we have a few episodes between now and the end of June, so there's definitely some space to continue this conversation with these two amazing people. The last 53 minutes have gone by in the blink of an eye, and it's because it is such a powerful, moving dose of hope. So thank you for that. So Nathan, I want to pick up on something that you were talking about earlier, because like Melisha, you're just really good at kind of wrapping in a bunch of questions into or answers to questions into your responses. You talked about, the fact that if folks are in recovery and they're getting close to their 2-year mark, which sounds like an eligibility requirement to become what we in New Mexico call a certified peer support worker, or a CPSW. You said to reach out to get on the list. Thankfully, there's no longer a wait list to take the course. I believe it's a 40-hour course. Can you let the listening audience know what the website is, so that way we can make sure that we not only put it on the Facebook Live, but so that folks can pass it on to folks who might not be able to be watching this live?
Definitely. And Maxine, and this is funny because I get to explain how to get to the application quite often. So this is going to be funny, right? So the link is obnoxiously long, so I'm not going to read it out, but I will drop it in the comment box for you, and I'll explain to you how to get to our website through Google. So if you go to Google and you just type in OPRE, OPRE space NM, and that stands for OPRE New Mexico. The first result will be the OPRE Network of Care website. Go ahead and click that website, and there's much more than just the application as a resource on that page. We have job openings. That's how you sign up for our weekly newsletter. Melisha sends out a weekly newsletter, and man, I mean, that hands down, that newsletter, I love getting it every week, and I'm involved with the office every day, and I still read it. You know, it's like, oh wow, yeah, you know, it's like a reminder and gets me excited again. So yeah, you could go sign up for the newsletter there. You can apply for the training. However, the application for training will not go live until March 1st. So if you are interested, please do wait until March 1st and you know, go head on over to the OPRE website and register. The newsletter is awesome. It has a bunch of you know, statewide recovery events. You know, we like to feature treatment centers, IOPs, calendars in there, just to kind of share with the community, you know, what treatment centers and providers are doing. Lots of jobs for CPSWs. I mean, every newsletter is just packed with jobs. So yeah, it's a great resource. So yeah, best way to get there is to head on over to Google, type in OPRE NM, and the first result will be our homepage.
Perfect. And I just want to remind the listening audience that since we've cast a broader net and we have folks from, I heard, Iowa, California, Texas, you know, if you're not sure how to get in contact with your local peer support office, still go to OPRE and M to get in touch with Nathan and Militia, and they'll help you find your local resources for this. And a real quick plug, I believe that in New Mexico, the training to become certified peer support worker is free. Yes?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay,
This is
thank you,
true.
Fred.
Oh my gosh, I usually don't like to look at the clock, and I know why now. It's because there's some things I don't want to have end, ¿verdad? So we'll just have to think about, the sequel, So Melisha and Nathan, you guys got to keep your ears and open. Who knows what will come out of this session today? But as you know, as Maxine referred to, we'll be doing these pláticas between now and June. And we've got some great folks that have been invited to it. And so we're looking forward to the next series of pláticas. And we want folks to listen in on Facebook Live, because we'll post all of these events there. But I do want you to know something, Nathan. You may have just given us the magic trick. So I might just buy a whole bunch of Irish Spring soap and hand them out to parents. So every time I talk to other parents about the struggles we have with our kids, I'll say, but I have a little something here that might just work. So, Nathan, thank you for saying that story. And before we ask you to make your final comments, I want to say thank you to your leadership at OPRE to be able to really bring the voice of the consumers, the individuals in recovery to the forefront. As I've always told folks, I lost my oldest brother to alcoholism. It's a death that I will never forget. And part of that is because he was like my second father. He was so influential that it inspired me to do the work that I've been doing for years, just as well as my older sister Esther, who suffers from chronic paranoid schizophrenia. So your stories and our stories and the stories all around us need to be continued to be told. Each of us has this power, and that's the power that's expressed in this proverb. Uno es el arquitecto de su propio destino. One is the architect of their own destiny. And you've just painted that that drawing for all of us. And we look forward to our continued partnership with you at the state of New Mexico. But more importantly, just know that in making your final comments, just know that this is not the end of this plática. uh, La Plática, the conversations continue to happen, right? And in New Mexico, an old tradition was that you would have your conversations, your private conversations with your parents or your madrinas or your grandpa or your best friend in the Resolana. That was the sunny side of the house. It was a nice place to be because you warm up and it was a nice place to be. And so part of that is we're going to continue these pláticas. So we're going to end with you, Melisha and Nathan, making your final comments. And then we're going to unfortunately have to say, see you next time. But Melisha, Nathan, go ahead.
Oh my gosh, I'm going away from this hour with full. My cup is full, and so I'm honored to have been here today. I did forget to say that I am such a blessed woman because I get to sit, and Nathan touched on this a little bit, with around so many powerful people at BHSD that have mentored us the past 18 months. And can I just say that it feels good to be supervisable and employable and collaborating with different people and different agencies and cross agencies, getting to help the youth get their stuff up and running. There's just so many closing remarks and not enough time this time, but I like that we will continue this down the road. But today, coming into this, how we get a little bit nervous. I'm just beyond myself, and to be able to sit at a platform where we can platicar como la gente and end the hour on a very good note about peer support in New Mexico, because we love it, we need it, it's strong, and we're not going anywhere. Medicine, the new medicine, Nathan said it. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Mr. Nathan, bring us home, and just as a reminder, this has been recorded, so we're going to repost it on Facebook, and we're going to share this across the nation. And so just know that we can continue the conversation on the repost. So that with all the comments and things that people have shared, we're going to keep this conversation going. Nathan, bring us home, hombre.
Thank you, Fred. Wow, yeah, what an amazing last hour it's been. Before we hopped on here, I was feeling very anxious, and when I first started speaking, I can feel my heart rate up, and but Fred and Maxine, you've made this a very safe space for me to share my story. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Closing remarks from me would be, that if you know somebody, or if you're somebody, that's struggling with mental health, or with substance abuse, or lifestyle, anything like that, recovery is possible, right? There is a way out, right? I've met individuals who, had stories that topped mine. I've met individuals who didn't have to go so far down to that rock bottom, right, to make some changes in their life. But the one thing that we all have in common, right, is that we've all gotten to that point, right, where the pain of change, right, that pain that we experience when we go through change is easier to endure than the pain of staying the same, right, or staying in the same environment, or staying in the the same household, whatever it may be for you. There are people out there that want to hear from you. There are people out there that from the bottom of their heart want to help you and want to see you succeed, right? So yeah, that's my closing remark. Recovery is possible.
I love it. I love it. Well, it is absolutely possible, and you're both a testament to that. And we're looking forward to the next few months to be able to continue to bring awareness, education, information, and resources, so we can help the families and the individuals who are just right at that threshold, or should know about the door that's open to them for the opportunities to experience recovery. And just, if I could, it's always important to say thank you to the people who make these things possible. And so to our team, Paula and Victor, and for, of course, my incredible co-host, Maximiliana Henry, also known as Maxine. It's always so wonderful to have her, continue to play a leadership role in our organization. And of course, it always helps us to express that the Latino voice is important to our families, because they oftentimes are the healers in our families. And for our healers who themselves are experiencing healing, let's remind ourselves that we're grateful for all that they do for us. So we'll see you again. Gracias por la plática hoy. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Adios. Bye-bye.
Adiós. Gracias.